Welcome back to all of you who have remained strong throughout the course of the lesson. I know there is a lot of material here, and you are now about ready to begin part two of the on-demand video. However, I know there are some dark and stormy weather that you guys had to cross in order to get here and sail on your ship to success. And for those of you that are here watching this video, I applaud you and tip my cap to you. But I want to know those of you who were brave enough to venture onto on-demand video part two. Let me know. Send me either a message or a email letting me know if you think capitalism is a good idea. And what kind of company you would run. Would you be the type of boss that would look out for the betterment and welfare of all of their employees, or would you want to straight up make that money and just better yourself? Let me know what you think. I'm very curious to see your thoughts. Feel free to share. What kind of company would you run? What kind of goods would you produce? It's by no means a requirement, but if you would like to take a moment and share that along with your weekend plans, I'm curious to know. I do care about all of you out there, and I want to just make sure that all of my students are able to access the videos and the lessons. If you do not feel like sharing, that's not a big deal. Just let me know when you get to class next week. Having said that, let's go on and move to part two. So, communism. Ugh. Communism means controlling all means of production. So we're looking at the factories, the railroads, phone lines, electric companies, everything are owned by the government. Money is distributed out by the state in almost equal amounts to all people. So when we take a look at this, it kind of devalues education. And when we look at different countries around the world that use this, I know I did a lot of research on Cuba and their communist society setup. A lot of people were very angry who did go to college and got a great education to become doctors, lawyers, politicians, and all of the above. When the country went communist, they made the same amount of money as a farmer or as a general laborer who did not have a degree. All of the people worked for essentially the same amount of pay, regardless of the amount of time you put into your job. It's very that is one of the downsides to the thing. So it does, in a sense, promote an ideal of laziness. People don't have the drive to work for their own business because they'll end up making the same amount of money, and the government owns all businesses. Everyone in all jobs work for the betterment of the country itself, and when the country does better, the people do better. However, we all can know that, at least I know personally, if I saw somebody who was making the same amount of money as me, and they didn't go to school for as long as I did, or they didn't work as hard as I did, I would be very mad when I saw them making as much money as me, and it would kind of make me say, you know what, if he doesn't have to work very hard, I don't know that I want to work very hard. Imagine if you were somebody who worked in the steel industry, and you worked around hot fire all day, you worked 12 to 16-hour shifts, and you saw somebody who maybe worked as a flag person for a construction company, and you got paid the same. The flagger for the construction company, which is a great job, and it can be tough standing out there all day, is not nearly as dangerous and labor intensive as a steel worker, but they make the same amount of money. This is one of the biggest concerns with communism, is the idea is that everybody will be equal and promote the betterment of the country. However, the human nature side of it kind of goes against the philosophy and kind of makes it difficult for it to work in its truest extent. So there's also no choices in brands, no incentive for people to innovate or become entrepreneurs, because they're not going to see any added benefit, profits, if you will, to create new items or to open your own business, because like I said, why would you want to work that hard when you're going to make the same as somebody who doesn't work hardly at all and makes the same amount of money as you do? It's very, very uh, it promotes laziness, like I said. Very hard for the government to adjust pricing, how much is produced, how to deal with new products, because like I said, the motivation um, to make more goods or to produce higher quality goods just isn't there because nobody has incentive to make equal amounts of money and work 10 times harder than somebody else. If you look on the left, how does this poster make you feel? When we talk about the Red Scare in the United States, it was a fear of communism spreading, and this would be a poster that you could have seen during this time period. The question is asking you, is this tomorrow American under communism? Does this poster can conjure up ideas of warmth and happiness and something that we want to bring to the U.S., or does it promote like fear and scariness? Look at how the men and the women are acting in the bottom. Let me know what you think. We'll talk about this poster a little bit next week. We also have a video on communism, so I'm going to go ahead and let you take a moment and we'll watch it, communism, and it'll describe what it is, kind of what it talks about, and the ideas behind it. This cartoon is pretty funny. When we look at it, communism is waiting 2 hours to buy bread, capitalism is waiting 2 years to be able to afford it. So tell me what you think that cartoon means when we look at it. So, we look at capitalism in the communism cartoon in the bottom here. We see some people working on different factories, and the different owners kind of figuring out how the profits and the monies are produced. So take a moment. What do you think of these two pictures and the machines they're operating? Let me know and view the video and then come on back. So hit pause on this video, go and click on the next one, and we will continue on. So, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video on communism. Let's take a look at socialism now. Socialism is the public ownership of industries. Economic system. It is an economic system where the wealth is equally shared by the workers and the people. This is just an economic system, not a social government system. So when we look at socialism, it's an aspect of society where all people pull together their money and they own some portion of society. When we take a look at socialism, we actually do have some socialistic aspects in our society. Taxes is how we would relate to socialism. Socialist societies have high amounts of taxes on whatever their wages are in order to produce goods that are shared by everyone, and the goods would be considered education. So countries where the college is paid for all the way up through whatever degree they want to get to are socialistic societies. Free healthcare is a socialistic idea. We look at police, firefighters, ambulances. All of those companies are owned by the people. So those are socialistic ideas. We pay taxes into them. We own them. We're not the direct overseers of them. There is a better overseer, the government, typically. But the money that we put towards taxes pays for all of these things. So there's socialistic aspects. It's not a government system. It's just an economic system. So we have socialistic aspects in our own country. Other times when socialism was considered the primary function of a society, we look at early civilizations. All of them pulled together the hunting goods and distributed them equally among each other. All of them pulled together clothing, the weaponry that you would use for hunting, the different shelters that they would put up, the different fires. All of those things were shared equally among groups. Everybody worked hard because they all depended on the survival of others doing their job in order to continue their lifestyle that they were living. We do see some aspects of this today, like I described to you previously. So, While I was describing to you some of the aspects we see in it today, let's take a look at a mixed economy, and it's really kind of in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, the best of all worlds. You take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, throw it all together, and you get this mixed economy. So you get some capitalism, communism, and socialism. So we have the private economic freedom and the use of capitalism, but we also allow for governments to interfere in economic activities in order to achieve social aim. There's strong oversight of public and social welfare. So we look at the welfare system, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Food and Drug Administration, the Social Security system. Granted, does it work perfectly? Absolutely not. None of these economic systems are going to work perfectly in today's society. We have a global economy with the internet and technology that's available, so everybody's kind of got to figure out the right mix or balance for themselves. Um, a lot of people do struggle with the idea that the government has such strong power over these different businesses and these different agencies. However, without them, I cannot imagine what our food would look like. It's already pretty scary. Where it comes from, and the different chemicals that are put in them. But think about how much the FDA actually does do, and if there is an epidemic of uh, the different bacterias that make people sick. The FDA immediately is notified, lets the public know, creates public awarenesses, and finds the source of the product. The Environmental Protection Agency sets aside different acreage of land and tries to protect the animals in the different ecosystems. And without them, oh my goodness, I cannot even imagine what the different companies would do because there would be no oversight. Absolutely scary to think about. In the U.S., we have communism when we look at the care for roads, libraries, and mail. Those are totally controlled strictly by the government. So when we look at like PennDOT, when we look at the different libraries, and when we look at not like FedEx, but the traditional U.S. Postal Service, those are all companies that are totally owned by the government, ran by the government. They set the prices and the wages, all of that good stuff. And of course, we have capitalist society where we look at companies that start up on their own. They go on Shark Tank. They look for investors. They grow, and they provide products based on the supply and demand of society. So who's the who's of the world? What are other countries? So when we take a look at some of the biggest capitalist countries of the world and the most and some of the socialist countries of the world, what kind of traits do you consider? What kind of traits or characteristics do you think of when you hear of countries like Germany, the United States, China, India, and Japan? Those are mostly capitalist societies. We're part capitalist, but we are also part socialist and part communist. We're a mixed economy. Is really the term that we use when we describe ourselves. But when we're just cutting it straight down the middle, we fall more on the capitalist side. When we look at the socialist side, we have China, Denmark, Finland, Canada, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, New Zealand, Belgium. Now, when we think of these countries, what do we think of? I know I personally think of free health care, free college tuition, people getting a lot more benefits from the government. They're taken care of better by their government. On the downside, though, high taxes. I actually had a student from Norway when I taught in Maryland, and she would always tell me about all the different housing situations that people lived in, the free health care, and all of the benefits it had. But she said, but I would never make very much money if I continued to live there because the taxes are so high, even if you have a good paying job. Now we see China on both lists. What I want you to do is take a moment, pause, and consider, why is China on both of these lists? Can you figure it out? Maybe do a Google search. So pause it, think about it, and I will go ahead and tell you about it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and the reason China is on both is because it is actually actually both economic systems. Most of it is socialist and communist. They produce the government controls and produces all of the goods. However, there are special economic zones along the shores where most of our goods are produced that are considered capitalist. Each little area applies to be a special economic zone, and this is where you see all of the goods being produced. For the most part, China is very poor, as we all know, because the society of capitalists don't pay their employees very well, which is why we get all of our goods made there very cheaply. So if you want to come see me during my office hours, they are up there. It's from Tuesday at 1 to 2 and Thursday 10 to 11. Come for any reason. And next week we will take a look at the Great Depression. Remember, by Friday, you should have up through the Unit 3 exam, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I hope you all have a great day.